All right, welcome everyone to Cool's Interviews. We're at episode 32, and we're going to have a very fun conversation today. It's definitely going to be more of a conversation akin to our Three Beards interview, where we just sit back and talk different topics and kind of pick each other's brains. And today's guest, we have Tillie, and you guys will put a link in the description below, and that way you can actually check out Tillie's YouTube page. Lots of great videos and stuff. But before I go too far and just ramble and hijack the interview as I'm known to do, I'm going to turn it over. And would you be so kind to introduce yourself to our guests and just kind of give a little bit of your background?
You got it, sir. Hello, everyone. My name is Tillie Treadwell. I currently reside in Lake Mary, Florida, where I was born, but I have spent a rather fair amount of time traveling back and forth from the more northern states here in America. I have been a paranormal experiencer, I believe, since the time I was in the crib, and I do seem to have some memories from that. And you may notice that my language is rather precise and maybe somewhat open ended, and that is because, please don't listen to me. I could be crazy, probably. I'm just a chick, as I always say, sitting in front of my Christmas tree or whatever nice background I have and chatting away. So now that my butt is covered, I have co led a team with the Catholic Church. And in this team, we were geared towards what I would call exorcism like work, lots of paranormal investigation as well. After that, I became you could say, a paranormal counselor, professional paranormal counselor, healer, tarot card interpreter. And then after a little while with that, I retired. I got married, settled down, and I've just been a happy, quiet housewife up until recently when I met and befriended Tim Swartz. Yes, that Tim Swartz from Ancient Aliens and the Unexplained. He and I are now writing books together. And then we also started my channel, The Weird Walk Home. So he and I are I guess you could say, creators, managers on that. And what else? I guess I have just signed a deal with the International Dogman Project and the Quad Coalition of Sciences to become a writer exclusively for them as well, with regular articles. And yeah, I am now appearing on lots of new shows and making lots of new friends. I think that's about it. Yeah. Is that good?
That is great. No, and Sam and I are both appreciative of you joining us tonight. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fun conversation. I know with the new year, you were kind of talking about time related stuff. And I know I kind of teased the story that me and Sam endured recently. So we
Yeah.
can, if you want to start there, that I'd be happy to go into time.
I think that sounds wonderful. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here too. Thank you very much for having me, boys. I appreciate it deeply.
Yeah, of course. So with time, because I know one thing I wrote down was like time slips. What
Mhm.
is your like idea with time slips and the flow of time?
The flow of time. This is really tricky because I think it depends on the person and a lot of individual factors. And I think that personal density and vibration play a large part in that. I think that human people experience time mostly one way, and that non human people, depending upon their genetics and their vibration, experience time in a completely different way. And I think that they also interact with time in a completely exotic manner, at least as far as human people would be concerned anyways, or how they would experience it, if that makes sense. That's my understanding anyways. Yeah. What about you?
For me, I'm not sure because I think time is relative to whoever is viewing the time. I guess
Mhm.
in a way, like you're saying, because if you think about it, animals experience time very much different than we do,
Mhm.
depending on what some animals live 24 hours, some birds live hundreds of years, 100 plus years. There's
Yeah.
the Greenland shark lives a couple hundred years. So I don't know. It's weird. I know Sam and I have on time to time contemplated time travel and would it be possible? And if you could time travel, could you ever get back? And you know, so yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting topic for sure. We've actually kind of going into Sam's UFOs and splicing it back to time. We've kind of pondered what if UFOs are just people from the future,
Hmm.
especially like the Greys, where because I know there's been some studies where they've shown how people would evolve, especially with the sun growing in size,
Yeah.
and it's not too far off of what people think of as Greys. And so we've always kind of played with the idea: what if some alien encounters are just people?
I think that that's quite possible. And the way that I understand, um, and I could say even maybe experience the flow of time, it seems to me, anyways, that everything is both happening right now, happening in the future, and has already happened. And therefore, I think that everything that ever could happen will happen, or it has already happened, or it is happening right now. And so I think that that is perfectly plausible. And I completely agree with you. I think that in at least some timelines, subjective timelines, I do think that that is quite the case.
Well, and like with time slips too, sometimes I wonder when we go on paranormal investigations and ghost hunts,
Mhm.
how much of it is like actual spirits or how much of it is like a different timeline that's kind of slipped into ours or a different like universe,
Dimension.
like dimension, yeah, where
Yeah.
we've kind of like just the boundaries for some reason, the rocks emitted the right energy that day, whatever it was, and
Yeah.
we could we could interact. Colorado's big on geology, so that's one thing that we've always tried to note when we go into paranormal investigations is like rocks and weather and stuff like that.
And I think that you're
True.
truly onto something because in my own experiences and studies, I keep running into the assertion that trees and rocks are portals essentially. And I have a few stories about that that you might find really interesting. And Keegan, if you've been listening to my channel, you may have already heard this. Sam, how much of my channel have you watched?
I've watched a decent amount, a good amount of shorts. I did check out your recent video that you posted like 7 hours ago, or 8 or 9 hours ago, technically today,
Okay.
and a couple of the other videos. So like a good amount, but like not nearly as much as there is there.
I think that's fair. Well, if I may, then, for the audience, in case you've already heard it, briefly, back in my paranormal investigator days and my paranormal counselor days, I was called into a case where there was a man who owned a patch of woods and his house was right there with the woods as well. And he said that there had always been strange activity, but that the activity was at an even baseline that he could handle. And there was never anything threatening, whatever. And he said that 6 months, um, over the last 6 months, right before he called us, it had for some reason really picked up steam, and that the final straw for him was basically that he was out in the woods doing some type of chore that he had to complete. And if I remember properly, this was going into um, the end of the golden hour, getting into dusk. And he said that in his um, oak grove, there was an especially large and beautiful oak tree, and he witnessed a large, hairy, somewhere between 7 and 8 feet tall, muscular Bigfoot walked directly in face first into the oak tree, and it was absorbed into the tree and disappeared. Had you guys heard that before on my channel, or?
I heard that one on this channel or on that last video that I watched,
Gotcha.
and I thought that was really fascinating because I always talk to Keegan about interdimensional Bigfoots, and he's not very fond of that topic, but like I'm always just like whenever we talk about Bigfoots, and I'm like, what about interdimensional Bigfoots?
Hey, I
Yeah.
rated that book highly. The
I know you
interdimensional
did.
Bigfoot, I gave a good grade too. So,
I know. I was pretty surprised by that, honestly, because of how much we banter back and forth about it.
hey, it was well written, I thought.
I mean, even if you disagree with it, if it's well written, then I think that's worth something.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is even if I may not agree with something, if they lay out good arguments and good reasons why they believe it, I can, understand it. That's all I look for. If someone's just like, I want you to believe this because I believe it, then I'm like, no. But if they're like, I believe this because this, and this, I'm like, okay, I can understand that then.
Oh, cool, cool. I really like that attitude because I mean, I bump into a lot of people doing this work, and I always have, and um, there are a lot of people there who just think that they know everything, that they even know the core of reality, and they're not open to anything else. And they don't think that their eyes or their ears can be deceived or manipulated at all, basically. So then how can how can you work with someone like that when there's no open-mindedness
Mhm.
there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and personally for me, and Sam knows I've told him, but there's stuff where I'm like, I hope in our lifetime we don't figure it out because
Hmm.
it's that mystery that kind of got us down that road. And I
Precisely.
hope the next generation has that same thing.
Yeah,
True.
I
Well,
agree. And
when coming with like or when you come up with like a new mystery, there's other mysteries that will cause like, well, what brought that? Like, it's always gonna have that trickling effect of like, all right, we solved this, but like, what made that happen? So like, there will always be that mystery because it's just a trickling effect, like the beginning of the universe, or like that endless question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
debate that like everybody is always about, and it's just like, that's a great point. I have no idea.
It
yeah.
was definitely the egg.
I love
It was definitely the
it.
egg, but
Oh, you know,
hey,
you got this.
Dinosaurs were here first, and then they laid eggs, and then eventually they became chickens. See, so there was definitely eggs somewhere before a chicken.
Maybe. Oh, I had wanted to say, outside of the tree, you had mentioned about the rocks vibrating a certain way that day, for allowing paranormal activity to come in. I have actually come into a few encounters where I seem to have been highly accurate, picking up on non-human interdimensional peoples or a person living within a boulder or within a stack of rocks. And then I didn't know at the time that this was a thing until I started running into Steve Mara's work. Do you know who Steve Mara is?
I might know the work, but like the name, not right off the top of my head.
Okay, so he is a British, yeah, a British, I believe, scientific slash paranormal investigator, but he's really heavy on science, which I quite like because all of this is deeply interconnected from what I understand and from what I've experienced. I So when I speak of these things, I will often say magic, but I don't mean stage magic, which is MAGIC, nor do I mean ritual magic, which is MAGICK. I have a very special distinction. I call it magic, MAGIQ. So the Q stands for quantum. And when I speak about these things, quantum meaning vibration, the more subtle sciences, that type of thing. So, with that explained, Steve Mara, his whole platform is basically all about magic with a Q. And he started explaining the importance of stone, especially, and how um, missing 411 cases, a lot of the time, they can be traced back to being near boulder fields or rock fields. And that lines up exactly with what I have experienced in some of my own cases. And I've gotten to see what appears to be recorded camera evidence that was revealed to me after I said, "Hey, I'm getting communication or vibration that rock over there has what human people would call a fairy in it." And what I understand from speaking apparently with the non-human peoples is a lot of the times they just want to be left alone to inhabit their rocks and not have things messed with. They absorb into it like the Bigfoot that I had talked about, and they can use it either as like a halfway kind of house where they essentially decorate the inside of it, but it's all vibrational. So human people can't enter it, but they do. And it looks completely different to them. And it is completely different to them on the inside. Or they can use it as a complete gateway into their more natural realm, which is of a higher vibration than this realm, the 3D realm. So this realm is 3D, the third vibration, you could say. And then the earth related fae that I've encountered have explained to me that they live in a vibration that is slightly higher than here, and we could call that 3.5. And then the jinn are on the fourth dimension. They have a much harder time coming in, like the shadow people and the jinn. But that's why there are far more reports of the so-called fae. They are living inhabiting. They are the spirits of these rocks and of these trees and of these plants. And that's where they go back into when they're done manifesting here, whether they run out of steam essentially, or they just willfully go back, if that makes all sense.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No, no problem. A way to kind of explain that as well is if anyone's watched Doctor Who, like it's kind of like a Time Lord type thing where you walk into something that's really small but becomes like an entire room or something.
Yep. Yep. There are whole how do you say, like vintage or antique artists who they would draw lots of illustrations of little animals or fairies inhabiting the insides of the trunks of the tree, and it would look exactly like a house. They've got furniture and all of that. It is actually very similar to that, and those ideas, they, I think, really came from something quite true and real. And human people these days are so very detached from nature. I think that they're missing out on seeing a lot of opportunities to meet with other cultures and other peoples, essentially, if that makes sense.
I would agree. We're detached from many things, not just nature.
I would agree with that, absolutely. And I think that non-human people have a great deal of reasons not to interact with most human beings, truly. And I'm sad about that because I dream of a blended society. I think it could be a lot of fun. But I mean, look at how human people treat themselves and then each other a lot of the times, you know? And even now, I'm caught up in some drama that I don't want to be caught up in on my own Facebook groups and whatnot because I have a stalker who's trying to get into groups and the admins are giving me trouble about this kind of thing, and they don't take mental health, I don't think, as seriously as what it should be, and they want to keep us both. And I'm like, I have to leave for my own safety. And their response is, please just stay. We need people in this group, essentially. And then just kind of ignoring me otherwise. And so I'm disgusted by a lot of what is going on.
Yeah, no, I've seen that, in different pages and stuff. We have a couple like private groups where we moderate who comes in and out because of that, where
Mm.
we've had to kick people out of the group because they kind of had weird stalkerish behaviors towards people. I'm like,
Yeah,
we can't be doing that.
right, right. It's
Yeah, no,
unfortunate.
it is. Mental health is big, after 2020, I
Mhm.
thought we would have gotten behind like learning more about that, but yeah, like you said, I don't think it's quite come to the forefront like it should have.
It was a forced lesson that nobody took at the core of what it was meant to try and do.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. And I see personally in my opinion, the high likelihood that human society and the human race is going to split off into two major sets of timelines. And again, this is just my opinion. I could be wrong and I could be crazy or I could be misled. So don't listen to me, probably. For myself, though, I see humankind splitting off into two major timelines, one creating essentially a complete hell on earth, and then the other going the complete and total opposite direction. And I'm here to try to encourage the growth and the maturity and the personal responsibility, the empathy and the love. I'm trying to help build that here while staying away from all of that other super negative energy. And it can be a bit of a challenge, you know? So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no. I always tell people, I'm like, just stay kind. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing you can do is just be kind to each other. We all, for some reason, inhabit this small little pinpoint in space at the very exact moment. Let's be kind to each other.
I completely agree. And that's what I'm hoping to continue to spread and love. And um yeah, it's nice. Hopefully we can join together, band together on that mission.
For sure. Well, speaking of like non-human beings and the news, there was that recent Miami mall incident where some people are saying aliens, some people aren't. I've talked to people in Miami on both sides, so I didn't know if you had like a idea or anything about what was going on there because I know there's videos. Speaking of the Bigfoot, but there are supposedly videos of creatures like going into like poles or pillars and just disappearing.
Yeah, I did hear about that, and I've heard a few different accounts, and I've seen some footage. Personally, I was not there, and even if I was, again, my eyes could have been deceived. I always hold that as an absolute truth. So I do suspect that there is something going on because this is just my experience. I have, I believe, always been an energetic empath. And part of that is picking up on lots and lots of different energies. The energy since 2019 going into 2020 has completely changed. And I have been having a lot more time slips, a lot more domestic paranormal experiences. My husband, as well, has been having even more of those as well. So, between all of that, the energies that I seem to be picking up, what other people are saying, and then what I believe to be my non-human connections, my non-human friends are telling me. So they live in a slightly lighter dimension, as I had explained. They also have been telling me that it's entering a really interesting and rough time for us to be here in the third density, and especially for human beings who are considered semi-sentient. They're saying that the veil is in some places almost completely disappearing. And I do think that that is actually the case going on here. And I think it's part of that larger timeline grouping split. This, again, just my theory, just my understanding. So, with the mall report, I'm not at all surprised if there really is something to it. And I've heard a report from someone who was allegedly there. And this person says that they witnessed a humanoid being or person or animal, I don't know which, if any, go into the mall. They manifested in the mall and then reached over and started pulling human people into it and absorbing them, like eating them through the
Hmm.
skin. I wouldn't be surprised if that could be true, maybe. I don't know, of course, but it seems like it could be a possibility because different animals and peoples and creatures eat in different ways. And with other things that were reported around the Miami incident, I really do think that there is something going on. What about you though? What are your thoughts? What's your understanding?
Uh, I've kind of swayed back and forth. I don't know if I've come to a conclusion. I know last night because we do a sports chat
Mm,
live every Tuesday, and I was talking to my buddy Dan, who doesn't live in Miami now, but he at least knows the area. So I was trying to get some questions, and he was like, "It's just weird because that was a lot of cops for one. There was like 80 some police officers, but two, they're not like showing any video or of like the fights or in which I could kind of get around just because of how old the people are supposed to be,
mhm,
minors, they're supposed to like protect their identities. But what he was saying too is they're not like showing any of the damage, like pictures of damaged buildings or anything like that, like it was purported. And so that was intriguing to me because I was like, yeah, that is kind of weird that if you can't release the people, at least like show what happened there, because there's supposedly like fireworks or whatever going off. So you'd think those would leave some type of mark.
mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
if they don't release it, somebody would. Sorry, I didn't mean to
I
cut
was
you
about to
off.
say the same thing. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, the fact that there's very little footage is suspicious to me. So I would vote that it's either that something genuine happened or that it's a psyop. But I think that there's a lot more going on in this society than what most human people think or understand or even care to think about. I would highly recommend that people watch the first three Men in Black movies and really pay attention. I think it was a type of disclosure in a lot of ways. And I do think that it was more nonfiction than fiction.
It's kind of how I
Yeah,
feel
I
about
mean,
Close Encounters.
Mm,
Close Encounters. Also, like I think Star Trek, even before that, was another way of like disclosure in a way
yeah.
as well. What was another? There was another big one.
The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah, the day the Earth stood still.
Uh, I grew up under a rock, so I really haven't watched most of those, to be honest. I'm so
I mean,
sorry.
I wouldn't either
Sam didn't
unless.
either until he met me.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. He's the movie buff, and he's just like, "Have you seen this movie?" And I'm like, "No." And then he's just like, "All right, we're watching it," and I'm
We're
like,
watching
"Wow,
it.
this is pretty crazy."
It's a good thing you
oh,
made friends with Blockbuster, Sam.
Yeah, basically. He used to sell DVDs out of the back of his car.
no,
I
you
did.
were that dude.
Because I upgrade into Blu-ray, and then people from
Oh,
work,
fancy.
yeah, people from work are like, "Hey, do you have this movie?" I'm like, "I'll give it to you for like $1."
I'm gonna kind of bring it back to our first question about like the time and like time slips. Well, I guess it's been an ongoing kind of talk, but if I may, Keegan, when we went to Roswell in July or
June.
June, essentially end of June, before July, because we were going for the UFO festival in Roswell. I have said on videos jokingly saying that like Keegan was just going slow. I don't know if we've actually done a video about it and actually us like actually talk about it. But there was a moment that like while I was sitting in the back seat, like I was just watching a video on my phone and like I felt like us pass through something. Like
Mhm.
there was like this weird there was just something that like I was just like kind of looking at and then like I just like felt like us move through something and I was kind of like looking around and I was just like, "Huh, that was weird." And then we were just heading down this like stretch of road and I don't know if it was has something to do with that like this stretch of road in particular, but like we were going like just going and going and like our like GPS was just like gradually like increasing in time. So like it was like originally like what did it say like 2 hours or something?
Yeah, no, I remember because it was right around Vaughn, New Mexico, and it was the weirdest because we were just watching video after video. There's not much to do in Vaughn outside of
Yeah.
listen and just drive.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was like you have 300 miles left. Cool. All right, now we're at 200 miles, but the time was going from like 2 hours to 3 hours to 3.5 hours, and like it just kept going up and up and up. I was watching it, and I'm like, it might just be me. And I remember Matt was like, are we in a vortex? Like, what's going on? like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
it was the weirdest stretch of road.
and
Wow.
like I was watching videos because yeah, I was watching like some Twitch streams because I was trying to get some like drops for like a game that I was playing, and
Mhm.
like it was going like hour after like a couple of hours, and I'm like, huh, I've been watching like a lot of these, and like it
Mm.
seems like we've been on the road for not nearly as long as I'm watching it, so I don't know if like time was either slowing or speeding up in like different like ways, or if it was going back and forth where it would like speed up but then also slow back down again. Like
Yeah.
it was a really weird experience because that road felt like forever.
Well, and it was supposed to take 8 hours ish, and it took over 10.
Yeah, it took us
And
so long to get
Okay.
my
there.
granddad and my uncle were going to Roswell like a month and a half after. And I said, go through Fort Sumner, do not go through Vaughn.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I've done both. Go through Fort Sumner. And of course, the GPS says it's going to be faster. They go through Vaughn. And my
Sure.
uncle even was like, that road just didn't seem like it was going to end. It just kept going and going and going. And yeah, it was weird.
Sam, I'm
Huh.
curious. You said that it felt like you passed through something. By any chance, would you describe that material, if you can call it that, as being kind of gelatinous or jello-like?
Kinda, yeah. It felt
Yeah. Mhm.
like the if we say it in like a movie terms or something that like some people would probably realize, it's like passing through like a force field almost, where like
Right.
you you like in Star Wars when the droids like pass through the force field, like they can see the force field, but it was something that you couldn't really see, but you just
Mhm.
like felt like you were going like through something. Like I experienced that like two other times. One was being like a wall of electricity.
Mhm.
Another one was one of the places that I worked at was like a wall of sawdust, which you could actually physically see the sawdust, and like hitting that was pretty dense and like pretty impactful. But like this one was just kind of like smooth, where it just like went by, and I was just like, huh, that felt like something happened, but like I couldn't like put a like my finger on it, or like I couldn't like exactly tell what happened, but like it felt like we passed through something, and then it all started to like kind of gradually make sense like the further we went, like with the time going up, but like us like
Yeah.
increasing in miles and such like that. But like it
Yeah, but
definitely
you
did feel
physically
like
felt
gelatinous.
something. But you
Yeah,
physically felt it, yeah?
I didn't like it wasn't more of like a physical feeling, it was more like I mentally felt it, not like it wasn't like something that like those two other scenarios where I actually like physically felt it with my body, but like I just felt something just
Okay.
it's hard to explain. it's,
Okay. I think I know what you're
it's such
getting
a
at.
unique it's a unique feeling where like I like mentally felt us pass through something. I'm trying to remember if I actually physically felt it. It's been a little while, and I might have. I
Okay.
think I even mentioned to these guys, I was just like, did you guys feel that or like notice that? I don't
Yeah,
remember if I said that like verbally out loud or if I just said that in my mind and thought I said it out loud.
sure. I was asking because a lot of reports that I've gotten from people who have seemed to enter into time warp zones or time bubble zones have reported to me that there is a gelatinous feeling of sorts. It tends to be a very mild gelatinous feeling, but it's still there. And I was really curious to see how you would describe it because it's something that I kept bumping into again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like gelatinous. It felt really smooth though. Like
Hmm.
it was just something that like it was like a smooth sailing through, but like wasn't like hitting the wall of electricity or the wall of sawdust, which is like more
Yeah.
dense and more like impactful. And like the electricity one was like, or like it wasn't really electricity. What would it like
It
magnetic?
felt no, it felt. I know what place you're talking about. It felt like you walked into a room where you went into water, but it was electrified. Is
Yeah,
how I
like
would explain it.
static.
Yeah.
The static would be a good explanation. Like that one was a weird one. It just like felt like you walked in there and like all your hairs would just be like standing up, like magnetized up.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah,
just like felt like you were in electricity, but you weren't being like shocked.
that would be really interesting to experience. I haven't had that
Yes.
before. Yeah, I bet. But as far as the gelatinous feeling goes, yeah, I've kept running into reports of that, and it seems to me that that type of feeling is intricately part of entering a time warp zone. And I've gotten to the point where I tell someone, if you ever feel that feeling, turn around immediately, go back and find the wall or the boundary or the barrier where that's happening, and make sure you go completely around it, because you might not come back. I've had other people report the same thing, that their clock, their GPS was speeding up, and it seems like that's just part of the material of that time space area. So yeah, just if you ever feel that, turn around, leave. That's my advice anyway. Save yourself.
Good to know for next time.
Mhm.
Because
Next time I'm going through Fort Sumner. I've already decided this. This
what if it
June,
happens
Fort
again?
Smart
Sumner.
guy.
I mean, it worked out for us because there was an incident, which I'm curious if we didn't go through that like spot, if we would have had that same incident, or if it would have been different.
What
If we would have
happened?
found the dead body.
I mean, we didn't find it. It just
No, but we could have if we didn't. Is
we
what you're
could
saying?
have. I mean, yeah, we probably would have came across that scene.
What? Fill me in.
You wanna
All right,
you
all
wanna
right, Sam.
explain it?
You were the one that brought it up, so
I mean, I guess I could. So we rented an Airbnb
in Hondo, New
yeah,
Mexico. Yeah.
in Hondo, and I guess one of the cleaners was out like mowing the lawn and then just like dropped. And
Oh,
they didn't really explain too much about it, but like they found him and they were like the owner had to like go show up there and they were trying to get like a firefighter and like other people out there to like I
oh.
guess do like remove the body
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something with it, and like they were trying to hit us up, but like the
There's no cell
connection
service.
yeah, the connection in New Mexico is not the
Right,
greatest.
right.
But like we eventually got a hold of them and we stopped in Lincoln, was just hanging out there and was making some shorts. Had one of their like what we have here is like a food truck, which was they had it last time and I was unable to join them.
Hmm.
And like it was actually pretty good. So like we got a lot done, but we still ended up staying at them and we were just like, no, I mean that doesn't bother us. Like we're investigators. I mean we even went
Yeah.
out with our phones. We didn't have any of our equipment, but like we went out there with our phones and like tried to do a little bit investigation out by where they were at.
I mean, to
All
be fair,
right.
the homeowner was like, "Have you ever done that at a location?" She kind of led us into that idea, that
Yeah,
mindset.
she kind of did.
I mean, all right. Wow, that sounds like quite the adventure overall that you guys had.
Oh yeah, New Mexico is fun. That's definitely a first though. I've never had to wait for that. I didn't know it was gonna happen. I was like, wow, this is something. We're 9 hours from home. We don't know where to stay.
Hmm.
So it was, yeah. And then of course you're just like, man, that poor caretakers doing their job,
Yeah.
and you're like, what happened? Was it too hot? Because it gets hot in the summer, and
Hmm.
you never know. And so yeah, there's a lot on our minds, and of course we were like dead tired because I don't think we even got to the Airbnb till what, like 10 o'clock at night, and we had
Yeah,
Oh,
set
like
out
nine
from
ten.
Colorado at 5 a.m.
Yeah, it was
and
a
we
long
were
day.
just tired.
that sounds like a brutal schedule to me. Wow.
Yeah,
It wasn't supposed to. We
Yeah.
planned ahead so we could get there,
Yeah.
get some rest, be rested up for the next day because then the festival started. And,
Sure.
I don't know if you've ever been to any of those big like UFO Fest or Cryptid Fest or any
Well,
Paracon
I am
Fest.
brand new to all of this.
Oh, yeah. The Roswell one is super fun. Maybe because we've made a lot of good friends out there and a lot of
Yeah.
researchers. And I don't know if Travis Walton, have you seen like Fire in the Sky?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, so we've
I
met
think we're
him in
friends on
Roswell.
Facebook.
He's a really nice guy. We met him twice
Oh,
now, and some of the Roswell people, and yeah, it's
yeah,
just a
about
good time. You're around a bunch of people that are super open, and We don't, in the paranormal field, it's kind of rare to come across. Like we've gone to Cripple Creek and it's been really open, but you go to other places and they'll shut you right down. They're like, nope, get out.
Yeah, I bet.
We have a pretty
Right.
funny picture with Travis.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I want to see.
So like we bring we have a toy Giganotosaurus,
Hmm,
and like we have their own like Instagram, so we have like a traveling Giganotosaurus, a traveling Indominus Rex, and
I
then
saw
traveling
it.
Rex.
Okay, yes, I know what you're talking about. Now that you're talking about it, yes, I saw that, and I really liked that photo, and I think I actually wound up sharing it on my own Facebook
That's
page.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
we have him like biting his
yep,
finger.
yep. I nice. I didn't see that one, but I saw another one that I had shared somewhere.
Yeah,
That's
people
cool.
like just eat it up, and it's a fun way to teach people, and not even just kids, but like adults about history and different locations. And
Yeah,
if it's us, they're like, whatever. If it's a dinosaur, then they're like, heck yeah, sign me up. I
They're
want to
like,
learn
I'm
about that
about
history.
it.
exactly. I hear you on that. Like I recently got connected with a really good artist, a professional artist, and she and I are working on a custom merch line, and it's all paranormal themed artwork that we're working on, but it's all also got layered meaning to it to teach people about certain paranormal legends or myths or events, things like that. And the first one that we're working on is called Paranormal Ants. Have you ever seen the meme, "Do you want ants? That's how you get ants," from Archer? Okay, so you,
I
So,
don't
do
think
you?
I have. I don't think
okay.
I have.
Well, Keegan, if you get it. So I took that meme and added paranormal. So do you want paranormal ants? This is how you get paranormal ants. And the first one that we're working on is a plate of brownies um, in a dark kitchen on the countertop with a nightlight illuminating from the side and these little glowy fronded ants crawling on the brownies because one, it's a reference to nighttime, which is a type of liminality, and then two, it's about food offerings because food offerings are big for that, and then three, it's about leaving out food because a lot of the time, in my experience, non-human people and creatures and etc., they will come in and sip off of the energy field of whatever food is left out. So yeah, I completely agree with and see what you're doing with the dinosaur, and I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy how like last year, because now Roswell's become like our yearly big trek. But people remember us because they're like, "Aren't you the guys with the dinosaur?" Don't worry about all the cool videos that we pour our hearts into, but hey, you had a 3 foot long
Yeah.
dinosaur.
It's the small things, I guess. You never know what's gonna catch on, what's gonna go viral.
I
Yeah.
mean, I feel that way with some of our videos. We
Mhm.
will work really hard on videos and they'll do okay. And then we do like a silly one. It's like
Yeah,
five, ten
exactly.
seconds long, and then they're like 30,000 views. I'm like, all right, I guess that's what it is.
I'm telling you, that's exactly what it is. Short and entertaining.
Mhm.
Right.
The magic formula in today's day and age, I guess.
I was thinking while we were talking, we got to do another show, and I want to get one of our other buddies on here. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've seen the YouTube channel Abnormal Voyages
No, I'm
with
sorry.
David, but it's really cool. I think we could do some fun little cryptid ones. We'll do more of a cryptid take next time for sure. But he's been in a lot of locations too, so I think we'd have a lot of fun back and forth banter on cryptids and stuff. You were
I would
talking about
love that.
UFOs though, right?
That's literally what I was about to go into. And then if you want, I can save this for another time, but I have probably, well, maybe a wicked cool cryptid personal story to tell you. But if you want me to wait until we meet your other friend, that's okay too. What would you prefer, boss?
Let's do the UFOs first, and I'll think about it. Honestly, I'll probably just say tell it because that's. I'm like, if we tell them again, yeah, no, but We'll do UFOs, and then I'm up for hearing about cryptids. I love
Okay.
cryptid stories.
We can do that. Sam, UFOs. I have two in particular I think you're going to be fascinated with.
Okay. And then I have two I can share with you as well.
I would love that. UFOs are very new to me. Growing up and as a child, I experienced almost everything else, but I never saw a ghost or a UFO ever. But um oh gosh, it's 2024 now. Okay. The summer of 2022 was big for UFOs for me and for my husband, Artemis. We were standing I was standing at the big window that's in our bedroom, and I love to sky gaze at night. It's just my thing. We get really beautiful moon views here and star views here. There was a semi-cloudy night in the summer of 2022, standing there looking, and I noticed something really strange just sitting really, really close to the treetop, like right above our tree. And it was barely behind a low hanging cloud. And I just stood there. I froze because I was like, all right, what is this? This is odd. I've never seen this before. I call my husband over to the window, and we both are standing there looking at it. And I get the distinct feeling that they or it, whoever, whatever it was looking at me. That makes me feel unnerved because I'm accustomed to working with non human people that will communicate back with me. I have only had a few instances where a non human person will not talk to me and it creeps me out, even if they do me no harm. So, sorry, I digress. This thing, person, whatever, would not communicate with me. The cloud moves a little bit past it. It is a black rectangle just sitting there, not moving with the clouds, no lights, nothing. And it almost blends in, except for the fact that with light pollution in the city or the suburbs, there's the sky takes on that inky blue quality instead. That's exactly what happened. And it just sat there. And it was a really creepy experience for me. I quickly pulled the drapes shut and I was like, nope, I don't have the constitution for this. And my husband was also pretty creeped out. And we went to bed and pretended like it did not exist for the most part. And now I'm a little bit, I don't look out the window quite as much after dark, to be honest with you. I had never seen something like that in my life. And I've read stories about uh, this happening exactly, but I didn't think that I would ever experience it for myself just because it's never happened. That's the first and apparently last and only time I've ever seen that. So that's one of them.
That's
Dang.
definitely very interesting.
That is. Yeah, I have one at nighttime, one was during the day.
Oh,
The one during the day, well, I will never say that I actually saw a craft because I don't know. I couldn't, it's like I just can't explain it,
hmm,
but I'm not gonna like full on like I will never full on just say it is until like I would actually know, but I don't have a way to actually figure it out. One of them I might be able to try and figure out, and I've been meaning to go up there and check. The one during the day was the not the first time I've seen something strange happen in the skies because back in 2010 to 2011, I was outside with my cousin in the hot tub because I was like staying over at his house for like the summer to just like hang out, and we were like doing a bunch of things. I was going to his like concerts and just
yeah,
being family, just hanging out, having a good time,
sure.
swimming and being in the hot tub. And like we were both out there just like chilling. And then like out of the corner of, let's see, I was facing west, he was facing east. We both just see this kind of like orange light like dip down, come near us, and then just vanish. And
Oh,
like I was just like, "Hey, did you see that?" And like, because it was just out of the corner of our eye, so we didn't like.
mhm.
We were just like, I was just like, "Huh? Did you just see a random orange light?" And he was just like, yeah, I saw that too, and that was kind of interesting. So then
Hmm.
we were just like, huh, that was pretty crazy. And then like we were just chilling, and then we like looked up in the sky, and there was like these, I can't tell if it was like the same group, but there was like these three planes that were in like a triangle formation, and they were just doing like circles over the like city that we were in. And like it seemed like there was multiples, and they were like doing this like weird grid pattern, because like they would be over here, and then they would be over here, and then they would be over there, and then they would be like right above us, and like they kept doing it in like odd patterns. And we were just like, that's really strange. Like that's such a weird way to fly, because they were doing circles,
Yeah.
and most planes just go like one direction.
Yeah.
So that was another weird account. But then after that, the one of the two was it was in 2000, and I think it was 16. In 2016, I was outside on my swing set at my like parents' place, and I was just sitting there swinging, listening to music, just like kind of in
Sure.
my own reality, just having a good old time. And then I just see this metallic object that was over Crystal Valley, which is near where like we are, and there's like a plateau that is like right behind the house, and it was just like off to the east by southeast direction of where I was, and there was just like this metallic like kind of shape there. It almost looked like it was like almost bell shaped, but like more kind of diamond looking, and it was just sitting there chilling, and I was just like, I just like sat there, continued to swing, like just continued swinging, like watching it for like a little bit.
Yeah.
And then like I slowed down to a stop and noticed that like it wasn't moving at all. And so I was just like, well, I want to get a closer look at this. So I went inside to get binoculars, and when I came back out, it was just gone. And I was
Mhm.
just like, well, that's weird.
That's interesting. I've heard other similar reports, and it does seem like these strange shapes in the sky are somewhat common.
Yes, they are. And sometimes you can notice them, sometimes they just don't want to be seen, or like you can't perceive it. Like they're probably there. It's just like we aren't being shown enough to like actually perceive them actually being there. And
I
then
completely agree.
my nighttime story, the other nighttime story, was something that was like extremely, like I found it very fascinating, because my buddy was playing a set up in Keystone in Colorado. And
Mm-hmm.
so like we were up the mountain just kind of like a little bit. It was just like a driveway up to this like kind of parking lot area. Basically could have been a parking lot to go like hiking. And it was at nighttime, so I don't know if there was actually trails there. So like it might have been like a trail spot to like get off and go hike. But there was like a little campfire, and it was like right up from some apartments. And like I was just like hanging out listening to my buddy do his like DJ set. And then off in the opposite side of where we were facing, I see these lights turn on, or like these lights appear, and there was like six, I want to say it was like six or seven. It was six or seven like perfect circles. And being that I wear glasses, like usually lights have like reflection, like the reflective beams off of it.
Oh,
Like
okay, okay. Mhm.
these had no reflected beams. They were just like perfect circles. There was no reflections from it. And like
Hmm.
the white that was coming from it was like, the best way to explain it is it was like a perfect white, but with like hints of like blue kind of like
Mhm.
luminescing from it. But then it was also like rotating in a circle, and it was just sitting there for a little bit, and I was just like watching it for a little bit, and then I started moving like closer to the kind of, and it's not really a cliff face, but like the downslope of the hill. And this other person was seeing it too, and he was like coming over, and he was just like, "You're seeing this too, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm definitely seeing this. Like, this is really crazy." And like, I didn't even think to like pull out my phone and like start recording it. But this was I didn't say when it was. This was in like 2017.
Okay. All right.
And then we were watching it for a little bit, and then it just vanished. Like either it like took off, like I explained it before, like maybe it took off at high speeds, or it just like it
Sure.
activated a cloak mode or something.
Something.
But then it was just gone, and like we continued to watch it for like a little bit, and then out of like inside like the tree area,
Mm-hmm.
there was like this like flash of orange, like almost like a fire was starting. But there was like
Oh.
this flash of orange, but then it just like that like disappeared too. And then it was, I think, 5 to 10 minutes later, you just see these car lights turn on, and then they like start going down the hill. But like the way that they were driving was kind of, I don't know, it didn't seem normal. It seemed very different. Like I may have potentially watched like the aftermath of potentially an abduction or something. It definitely felt along those vibes, but like that one really gets to me. I mean, they both really get to me because I'm just like, what was that? Like, what did I see? But like that one, especially just because those lights, like it was like a perfect circle and like they had no reflection. Like, I can't explain that one. Like, most all lights, like even my lights, have like that, like kind of like beam off of it where there's like this like light that are like these lines that go across in either direction depending on how you're looking at it from a lens.
Yeah, I
But
know
that
what you
one,
mean.
there was like none of that.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because you were talking about the colors. And for myself, when I have had experiences, but then also when I've gotten reports from other people, the most common color combinations of lights, especially in the woods, is either going to be blue with white, or it's orange with champagne or amber or yellow, or it's just like a straight out orange, warmish yellow color in general. So what you're describing again, that lines up perfectly even with my own experiences and the reports that I get, which I find fascinating because you don't know all the people that I've talked to, you don't know all of my experiences, but yet here we still have the exact same reports. Isn't that something?
No, agreed. And
Mhm.
then um with that account later, I was talking to my buddy about like explaining to him what I saw, and like he didn't see it because like he was in mid set of what he was doing.
Sure.
But earlier that day before it became super dark, like he was out in the woods going to the restroom, and he saw something like come down, like lights come down through the clouds, but then just like pop back up real quickly. And I was
Mm.
just like, huh, that is quite interesting.
Yeah, I bet.
And then after that experience, I felt something kind of weird too, because like I was on the drive home, and like on my drive home, I felt like best way to explain this is like I felt like there was like shackles around my mind that were kind of like breaking a little bit, and like I
Hmm,
was just like, huh, that's a weird experience.
that is a bit strange. Okay. I don't think I've ever had someone describe something to me quite like what you're talking about. So I'm afraid I have no input on that one, my friend. I'm sorry.
No, I mean it's no worries. It's just like
Huh.
different, like something that like I experienced that like I didn't like put the pieces together before, but like explaining it and then remembering that that kind of happened afterwards. But I was just like, huh, I wonder if that feeling had a part to play in with what I potentially saw,
And it may have. It absolutely may
or it
have.
could be something completely different. Hard to say.
Yeah, I agree. The second story I wanted to tell you has perhaps a few things in common with the bright white, pure light there. Again, this was my hubby and and this was the summer of, oh shoot, was it? I think it was just this past year. It was either in 2022 or 2023. I apologize. I'd have to look at my event diary to be 100% sure, and I don't have that with me right now. But anyways, we have seasonal celebrations. And for the summer, our thing is to have a bonfire and to roast weenies or, whatever it may be, and just sit outside and watch the stars and celebrate the fact that it is midsummer. Well, we were doing that this year. or the year that I mentioned. And we like to use our apps for some sky gazing. And you're familiar with those apps, right? Like Sky Map and yeah. Okay. We had pulled out the app and we were enjoying looking around, and my hubby lost a little bit of interest in it, so he started to cook food or whatever, and I was still panning and enjoying it. And then I had gotten the distinct feeling that someone had kind of like just zoomed in on me, and that they were watching me in extreme detail, and that they were gathering whatever information that they could on me. And I don't get these feelings just out of the blue. Mind you, too, my friends, I've been through lots and lots of psychological evaluations. I make sure that I live as healthy of a lifestyle as I possibly can at any point. As far as I know, there's no history in my family of any type of mental illnesses of that nature. And then my husband's like, yeah, you're fine, you're sane, you're stable, everything as well. So I got this beamed into essentially my mind, and I couldn't shake the feeling. So I just got the intuition that I should acknowledge whoever is watching me. And I wasn't getting any threatening feelings, so I thought that I would be friendly. And so I said, oh, hello. Thank you for, I didn't say this. This was telepathic. I just said, hello, thank you for joining us for our celebration. It's it's lovely to have you here, and you're welcome to stay if you would like. And then I had the instantaneous desire to know who this person was and where they were. I got the instantaneous knowledge drop that I needed to look at a certain place in the sky, and I did. And then I pulled up my sky map again, because my instinct was telling me, my intuition was telling me that it was Venus that was looking at me. And they say that Venus is just a planet, essentially. It's not sentient or anything of that nature these days. But I have my own suspicions, because my very first ever paranormal encounter, you could say, was with who I believe to be the spirit of the moon, or that's who she presented herself to me as. So jumping back into this modern day, I looked at Venus, made sure that this was Venus. I pulled up my phone again and I looked, and I was just watching, and I asked for a sign of some sort right in front of my face. Venus, super bright, nice and big in the sky, starts pulling back along the path that it took to get to where it was in the sky at that moment. And I'm looking at the sky map as well. There's nothing moving on the technology whatsoever. For all intents and purposes, there's no movement at all anywhere in the sky on the app. And so I nudge my husband, who's next to me at that point, and I'm like, hey, honey, do you see anything strange moving in the sky right now? And he's like, yeah, I do. Is that a plane or something? And I was like, no, that's Venus retracting. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't mistaking something, because we were at this time sitting on the far side. There was us, and then the fire, and then Venus. So it could have been distorted because of the heat waves coming off of the fire. So we moved over to the side. We still were watching it. And it took a minute or two to go back down under the tree line, but it happened, and both of us were watching it. And during all of this time, though, the sky map showed no movement whatsoever, and it showed Venus as still being perfectly still in the sky, right where it was when it started moving.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I think, like, I think there's probably many sentient beings on like all the planets within our solar system. It's just us communicating with them, and their whole talk with like why we haven't gone back to the moon is because we're not welcome there no more, because we may have done some something humans did and they didn't like it.
Well, what about
Yeah.
Nikola Tesla talking with Mars?
I don't doubt that either because Mars has clear signs that there's something once habited there or still inhabits it. It's just more probably underground because like it's non survivable anymore to an extent. So I don't
I
doubt that.
I don't believe NASA personally. I don't trust NASA at all. I've seen way too many video clips that seem to prove that they're using a lot of green screening, and I've heard even employees saying that there is no photo of Earth or footage of Earth, that it's all composite and Photoshop. So I don't believe them at all. I do not believe that human beings have gone to the moon. I do not believe that human cameras can pick up, especially in such detail, things that are supposed to be millions of miles away. I just don't buy any of this, to be honest with you. And I think that there is a much deeper conspiracy. I will use that word. I think that there's a much deeper conspiracy going on personally. But I am also an extremely skeptical person in a lot of ways. So I just chatted with someone recently who told me that he knows for a fact that the earth is round because he had projected himself out of his body and he was looking down on the earth and it was round. And so me, I personally, I respect that he believes that, but I don't believe that because what if that was a manipulation by some non-human person? Or what if he was dreaming by mistake, his brain entered that type of a dream realm, and he accidentally made it up subconsciously? Or what if it's just something that God, you could say, played a trick on him because it's what he wanted to see? But then also, we have Photoshop, we have AI now. We have a lot of ways to fake things, and I think that there are a lot of people who have a lot of good reason in their minds to lie to the general public. So that's just me, though. I'm super skeptical in that way, and I assert that there is very little that I can actually know for a fact about reality here, especially because what the time slips that it seems that I have had, the Mandela effects, the fact that it seems like timelines can switch and change at any point, and there seems to be residue of that. I All that I know is this moment right now. I am sitting here, apparently talking to you two gentlemen, and that's all I've got.
No, I
One
can
like
completely
your
understand that.
yeah, well, in your time slips, I know we're going to be able to hear if we pick up a book that you've written for, correct?
Yeah, please do. Yeah,
Yeah. And what's it called for anyone that's listening or viewing on YouTube?
you're so sweet for asking. Thank you. Tim Swartz has not released the official name of the book yet. It is in the final throes of production, and as soon as I have any of those finalized details, I will be more than happy to let you know. But yes, in that book, I go into all of the details of my fundamental philosophies. I go into the experiences that I do believe that I've had, and even something like I witnessed my cat crawling out of years dried concrete. And that completely shattered any notion of so called reality that I may have held.
No, I actually read a book about that when I was like younger. It was called Time Cats. Like it was not about them coming out of something, but like it was called Time Cats, and I don't remember when that book was written. I think it's called Time Cats. I really hope I'm right about that. I might have to look it up and fact check it. But it was a book about like this cat that would like travel through time, and like it was like basically they're like his human was just like, hey, like where do you go? Like I searched the entire house and like you come out of a room that like I've already checked and you're just like there. And then like the cat kind of like shows him and explains to him, yep, it is that book.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And like he goes and like takes him on like these like pretty intense like journeys, and like it was pretty fascinating because I'm just like, I've always questioned that because like I've looked for my cat and like check
Yeah.
all the hiding spots, and then she just like appears, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah. And that is quite literally exactly what happened to me with my cat this last spring or summer. And I've heard other accounts of cats being quite magical, and then as well, I've heard accounts of non-human people taking cat form. And then on top of it, I have been told by several types of non-human people that cats are one of their very favorite animals and have been for essentially forever.
I mean, they defy everything.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, they do.
They can knock us off the world, they would.
Yeah, I agree.
Just like,
Yeah.
It's like cats do the craziest thing and fit into like the weirdest things, and then somehow like get out. Like they have a skeleton, but it's almost like that skeleton isn't actually there.
Yeah,
They
I
do some
agree.
wild stuff.
Hmm.
No, I'm not surprised that beings would take the form of cats like that. That would be just like something that you wouldn't even expect.
Hmm. Yeah. And then all of my non-human connections and the non-human people that I met in doing cases in the past, every single one of them has told me that they absolutely hate dogs. And I actually agree with the logic that they gave. And of course, they're not saying all dogs, but like 99% of dogs, because dogs to non-human people, as I understand it, they are seen as the direct reflection of the worst of humankind, being vicious, greedy, sneaky, um, selfish, and dirty. And so that's how they are seen largely, as what I'm told. And it is actually strangely backed up, because there are a lot of stories about, say, Bigfoot and UFOs tearing dogs to shreds, and same with a lot of fairy people out in the woods. And so I definitely think that there are patterns there regarding animals.
yeah, the Sasquatch outpost here in Colorado, I think they have a story about it like tearing a dog in half. Right,
Hmm.
Hmm.
Sam?
Hmm.
I was trying to remember if I was a podcast I listened to, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that was at the
It
Bigfoot
was it was
or at the
also on
Sasquatch.
the video, that one video.
Oh, okay.
Um
Where it like stomped the dog, yeah.
Oh yeah,
no,
yeah,
it like ripped it in half.
yeah.
It
And
was
they told
Willow
me
Creek.
they had told me that they consider, and this was a wide array, by the way, of non-human people. They said that they consider dogs to be so disgusting and filthy that they won't even eat the meat. And two, something that I was told directly by, you could say, demons. I don't consider them demons at all. Non-human people who energetically feed off of human energy sources, which I think that is an amoral issue in itself, because everyone and everything has to eat. So, all of that aside, even these non-human people said that a massive risk factor for negative haunting and or for negative parasitic activity from non-human people who feed off of low vibrational people, one of the major risk factors is having a dog, and it's exponential after the first dog. So the more dogs someone has, the more at risk they are for this type of activity,
Oh no.
generally speaking. Mhm.
Does it counterbalance with cats? So if I have 6 cats and 2 dogs, just kidding.
It does, in a sense, actually. Yeah, it
Yes,
does.
win.
And I've had them tell me that they judge human people by the amount of dogs and or cats that they have, and then that helps to influence the vibration that that person holds. So cats, because they are so favored with non-human people and the traditional gods and the fae and whatnot, they say that if you've got far more cats than you have dogs, you're probably on the right path. But if you only have dogs, and or if you've got more dogs than you do cats, they consider that person to be like a base human animal in most likelihood. There have been a few exceptions, but very rare. And they consider that to be a filthy, animalistic human being. And it does seem to be true because dog owners are incredibly disrespectful. They go out in public and their dogs snap at people, they walk up and they jump on people, they lick strangers. They're toxic poo. They let them poo in strangers' yards and whatnot. There's a lot to it, you know, and dogs attack human children all the time and parents don't care or they make excuses for the animal. There's a lot of child endangerment. They're bringing these nasty creatures into the hospitals and they're licking on the like cancer patients and stuff, and the dander can make people sick. So yeah, a lot of these non-human people I think have really good reasons for hating a lot of base human nature and the seeing the lies and the delusions that a lot of human people just take for granted. And then the dogs being perfect reflections of that. To me, it makes sense. I don't even like dogs. In fact, I hate dogs, most of them. And I won't touch them. I don't go places where there are dogs because, firstly, I'm terrified of them. They typically don't like me. Just they naturally do not respond well to me. But then also they're filthy, and I can't trust them. I don't know these people. I don't know these dogs. So I don't know, but that's what I have been told, and it makes sense to me. But maybe I'm just a hater. I don't know.
Fair. I mean, I have
Sleeping
stories of the retail place I work where customers would bring dogs in and they just like pee on the floor and the customers would just
Exactly.
walk away like nothing, and it's just like, really? I mean,
Yeah.
come on. Yeah, they did it in front of the store owner, and he like normally he should like escort it out, but like he was just so blown away by the fact that like the dog did that and they like had no response about it and just like walked away, and it's just like, really?
Right.
That's pretty extreme.
Oh yeah.
I would have been
I've
like,
seen
get
that
out.
happen a lot. I've seen that happen a lot, and it happens pretty commonly in Florida, at least. And I don't know. I'm disgusted. I'm honestly disgusted. This is why non-human people largely avoid humankind, in my opinion.
We can see why we don't get along with each other.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the biggest
Yeah,
reason. Like,
basically. But
people
excuse me
use
while I enjoy some haterade over here. Pardon me,
some
boys.
haterade.
I just have a few UFO stories. Most of mine are
Sure.
ghosts.
Mhm.
So I don't really have any cool UFO stories. So
I
Mhm.
mean,
if
the
you want to
one
hear
you have is
ghost
really
stories,
cool.
Huh?
it's super brief. It's like mini UFO stories.
I mean,
Sure.
but it's still a really fascinating one.
That there was what, just the three lights that flew over the house?
No, the pulsating one.
Hmm. There is that one too. I don't know why I'd classify that one different.
I
What
mean,
is weird is it's not far from where Sam saw his, and it was because we lived in Crystal Valley, which is a like subdivision here in Castle Rock, and yeah, there was like this weird pulsating orb. It was like reddish orange in the sky over the hill, and so me and my dad and my brother got in his car, and we drove up over the hill, and you see it was just pulsating, and it looked like it was like over the highway. But the more I think of it, it probably was a little further away from the highway. It's just, you know how stuff in the air, it's hard to tell where it is.
oh
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was pulsating. It was broad daylight too, and we were like watching it for a while. And kind of near when we got over the hill and coming down almost to the main road where Sam lives off of, it just went like, and it was gone. Like it didn't. It was like it was there and then it was gone. It was the weirdest thing.
Hmm. That's interesting. That sounds like a pretty typical experience, except that the red light, I've rarely gotten reports of that. So that's interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, that's all I got. I mean, we've been to a lot of UFO places. If Alan was on here,
Yeah,
I'd have
I
him
wish
tell
he would
you
join us
about
one time.
the Phoenix Lights because he saw those in person.
Ooh. Oh, cool. I'd love to hear
Yeah,
about that.
But
Yeah.
he got it from like a
Definitely.
unique angle.
yeah. I'll actually we made a video, so I'll send it to you, so at least you can hear it. But at some point, I'll have him. We'll have to bring him on so you can talk to him about it because he's the one I was telling you about with the owls. He's Navajo and he grew up on the reservation and
Sweet.
yeah.
Yeah, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Well, I mean, I might have you perhaps beat with a lot of UFO encounters, but you've got me beat with apparent ghost encounters. What's that about?
Uh, I don't know. Our family's been followed by one main one for sure since
Hmm.
the late 40s. We call it the Black Veil. I just re-uploaded the video on our new channel, but yeah, it was first seen in Gary, Indiana, and then Chicago, then
Hmm.
Littleton, Colorado, and then Castle Rock, and then Denver, and then Castle Rock. And it legit just, if you've seen the picture of Jackie Kennedy's Black Veil, if you imagine that, but without the face,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
that's what
Without
it looks like. Yeah.
it's just a floating veil?
Yeah, just a dark veil.
Are you sure it's a ghost?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really unique. Just, are you sure it's a ghost?
Yeah, it's something that's followed, and I've rewatched the video, and
Mhm.
because we made that one like 12 years ago, I want to say, and I had forgotten the story where my yaya, because I'm Greek, so yaya's grandmother, but
Okay.
she was telling a story about she had walked in on her dad and mom talking about something in the kitchen, and he said something about like, oh yeah, like she said about the floating hand in that house. So apparently, in the same house she had first seen the black veil, there was like a floating, just disembodied hand, like skeleton hand.
Hmm.
Like I
I
can here, you go real quick. I have a picture to pull up.
Ooh, awesome. All of the experiences that I've ever heard of and helped resolve that have similar details as to what you're explaining, they were not actually ghosts. They were non-human people who were provoking reactions in order to get food. And they follow certain family lines of human people because certain family lines put out an especially healthy or delicious type of food for them. So I've never heard of details like this being related to a ghost, although I can understand why most people would say that it's a ghost. And usually revoking the original invitation that was given to them fixes that type of food as long as the subconscious mind and the conscious mind of the human person in question line up. So the revocation of invitation has to be completely sincere from top to bottom within the person, and then there's that resolves it in my experience.
Hmm.
So if you look, here's this old picture from the late 40s, and
Mhm.
I guess it's hard because of the camera, but if you look, where's my fingers? Like right here, you can see the window and the curtains, and then there's something peeking through. It's a lot easier. I guess I'd have to send you the picture. I think it's just how the
Yeah,
camera is picking up.
yeah, I'm sorry, hun.
But yeah, then I forgot I had that one. I was actually going to show you the spirit I saw, which I didn't take a picture of. I drew. Yeah, so this is what I saw.
Okay. What's going on around the eyes? Why is it jagged?
So it had like I'll tell you the story for it.
Sure, please.
So we lived in a house, and it's probably the main reason I became like interested in the paranormal because there were so many experiences in that house.
Mhm.
Everyone that went in there had an experience. Even families after had experiences because we've stayed friends with the neighbors. And it got to the point me and my brother were scared to sleep in our own room, so we'd sleep in our parents' room until my dad got home,
Mhm.
and he would take us and put us in our room. Well, one night I was like looking at the door, and it looked like he had just come in, and I was like, "Ha, watch, I'm going to be funny and scare him." And it was just this. It looked like him from the back facing the door, like he had just closed it. But then it went bent down, like it was locking the door, but the door didn't have a lock. And so I was watching it, kind of like, what's going on? And it was like it
Yeah.
sensed me watching it because then it like lifted up and just slowly turned and looked at me. And that's when I saw like the hair was spiked up and it had like purple almond shaped eyes with like a blue haze around it.
Okay, so that's what the jaggedness was.
Yeah. And then it just like came towards me and poof, it was gone.
I don't think you were dealing with a human spirit there. I think you might have
Yeah.
had one of the more rarer encounters where you genuinely caught this person off guard and you saw their natural manifested form here in this reality. That's what it sounds like to me from what you're describing. Yeah. Very interesting though. It sounds also to me with what you're describing like that house could be just a natural hotspot for these type of encounters. But what you're describing, all the accounts so far, they don't say human ghost to me at all in any way, shape, or form, especially since you're saying it's followed the family line. Typically, human ghosts won't do that usually, unless there's severe unfinished business in my experience. But even then, after a certain amount of time, that trauma I think fades for them and eventually they will stop coming back, especially if the people who they had issues with have passed on or gotten much older and now it's not the same person that ghost was used to dealing with. That's my understanding anyways, and my experience. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that house definitely had something going on with it. I lived in my room was in the basement and
Mm,
there was two crawl spaces. So
even
there was
better.
one that yeah, there was one that went into the like where all the heating stuff was and we kept movies and stuff in there. And that was on this side of the bed. Well, on this side of the bed, there was like an elevated one that went into like a dirt crawl space. And they both had doors. And yeah, every once in a while I'd be sleeping and you hear this one open and close.
Yep.
And then the bed, you'd feel it walk around the bed and it would
Hmm.
open and
I'm not surprised. Not one bit.
I think you were muted.
Yeah.
the ghost, see, it doesn't want me talking about it.
I guess not.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, we and Sam knows, but I find myself in bad situations sometimes with people I choose to be around.
Mhm.
But in my recent one, I was living in a townhouse and I would have these reoccurring dreams every night. No matter where I was, it would turn into that house and the doors were locked and the spirits were coming to get me.
Mhm.
So,
Interesting. Very interesting. And you talking about some negative social issues too makes a lot of sense.
mhm.
That explains what I was picking up off of you, but also Sam too. Yeah. I think though that if you guys really wanted to, you can change your life and change your vibration. But everything that you're talking about lines up precisely with everything that non-human people have told me about how they choose human victims. And the fact that you're acknowledging that you're maybe not choosing the best companions and experiences in your life goes to me to say that there really is something to what I would call vibrational science. So I I would just encourage you to maybe keep working on it. That's all.
Right. Yeah, no, something that last Friday we were like out and about and I just like realized if someone's having a bad day, like I'm just like drawn to them because I want to make them feel better. I guess that's just like my personality is like, hey, I want to help you feel better, you know?
Yeah.
And that's usually how I wind up in like situations. I'm like, dang it, why'd I do that again? You know, why
Yeah.
don't I learn?
Would you say that you had a good relationship with both of your parents growing up? Did you have a good
Yeah,
childhood, would you say? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. You don't think that there was any kind of emotional neglect going on there? Okay.
No, I feel pretty lucky to have the family I have and
Aw.
experience everything that I've experienced, you know.
Cool. There was no like drug abuse or major instability like homelessness or anything like that? No
Mm-mm.
one went to prison, your parents didn't go to prison or anything? Okay. So it might just be part of your natural makeup to be more of a carer. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing. And I would just encourage you to try your best to be mindful about that kind of weakness and maybe give it to people who already have their stuff together. Because even myself, so I have 2 years of clinical training under my belt to help people, like with what you're talking about. The sad truth is, though, that most people don't just have random one off bad days. Most people are having long patterns of bad days because they are choosing not great situations, not great health habits and people and whatnot. And my dear, I care about you. I don't think that you're going to be able to help these people because they really have to get to help themselves, get to helping themselves first. And the amount of self discipline that that takes is not something that you can remedy within them. And so, if you do continue on that path, the odds are very much against you. And like you said, you're drawn to them. They'll probably just wind up using you and draining out your energy even more. And then that leaves holes in your auric field. And their low energy, it attaches to you, in my understanding, and that draws in parasitic non-human people, even if you mean the very best, you know?
Yeah. Sam, we were just talking about my realization last Friday where I'm drawn to people that are just like not feeling good that day. And I'm just like, let me help you feel better, you know? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, you do have a slight issue with that, but
Hey, I've gotten better. You gotta admit, I've
no, you
gotten better.
definitely have.
Have you always been that way?
Yeah, I think I've always been like a kind person.
Oh, okay. So you've always been drawn to the negative people, would you say?
No, I think all the people I choose to be friends with are positive, and we all have goals, and we
Okay,
all try to build each other up, right?
okay.
It's more like the relationship portion for some reason.
Yeah,
Yeah. See, Sam,
it's
Sam's
like the
just
opposite. Yeah, the
yeah,
relationships is when he like it's just like, are you sure about this? And he's just like, no, they're fine. And we're just like, are you sure?
Oh man. Well, if it's any consolation, I would like to say I think that you have a really sweet spirit, and I think that you really do mean well. And I think that it is very, very difficult to find a human being who really has it together. And so, in that way, I can understand why you look at the pickings that are about and you just try to make the best of it. And you have that grace for people, which I think is wonderful. I think it's more just a matter of finding people who have it together enough that they're not going to wear you down and give you that kind of energy, and finding the people who really are just having an off day. So I empathize with you is what I'm trying to say. I really do.
yeah. Well, I appreciate it,
It's
and
it's lonely though when you really learn how to vet well. It can be quite lonely because as soon as you start getting to know someone and you start seeing their day-to-day habits, you start learning about their attachment traumas, their trauma responses in general, their health habits, how they feed themselves, and all of that. Most people don't make the cut for what a truly healthy, happy, harmonious person would be, at least by my standards and understanding. Um, and that's clinical understanding, but that's also my personal understanding. So I understand, I think, where you're coming from.
yeah, and I've tried to be better at like who I choose to be around. Sam knows I've at least I feel like in the last year I've definitely made a lot of progress. Where
No,
I'll,
you
I will
absolutely
I
have.
yeah, I'll cut things off because I'm like I and I've even told Brendan, our buddy in Kansas.
Mhm.
I told him I was like, yeah, I'm out, but I know where this is going, so I think this is the last time I'm going out because I don't want to go through that, So I know when to be like, I feel like this is going down the same path. I'm seeing signs that I used to be, I guess, blinded to, put the blinders
Sure,
up and
sure. Yeah. Are you talking about dating?
yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay. You know what? If you are learning, you're seeing these patterns, and that's when you're cutting it off, that's extremely healthy. So I support you in that, and I recognize that it takes a lot of mental flexibility to admit that you are seeing the same patterns over and over and then do something about them, because a lot of people don't. So I do applaud you for that. I think that you've deserved it. And I think maybe too, it could be really helpful for you to research what attachment styles are and what attachment traumas are if you haven't already, because that could help you vet people a lot faster, and it could help you to maybe take care of some of the longing that you may feel still to be around these people, or the initial attraction that you may have, dating or not. So I'm trying to be delicate. I hope that that has helped.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. Like we've been so busy. I think that helps you focus more on yourself too when you're
Exactly.
like consistently working and like me
Yes.
and Sam and our be it our paranormal group but our whole channel group, we've
Yeah.
been working on this weird project where we're going to buy land and build on it. So that's also been something that we've been like I've been
Yay.
at least focused on, and I feel like that positivity and like also trying to
Uh,
share people's stories and get people's stories out there. That's what
uh,
I enjoy. I just love sharing stuff.
I think that's awesome. And I agree with you. I think that that does definitely reduce codependency or the desire to bond with people who are not there yet. So I applaud you. I think you should keep going. I really do. I think you're doing a great job with this podcast. Our friend Mark loves you guys to pieces. So that's also something in itself. You're doing something right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
we love that
Mark's
guy.
a great guy. Yeah, we
Yeah.
are so happy to have stumbled into Mark because we interviewed Max Hawthorne
Hmm.
and twice now, and he was like, "I have a friend I want to connect you with," and that's how we met Mark, and it's been great. We've had him on a couple shows, so maybe when we do that cryptid one, we'll have Mark on here too. That'd be fun.
I would love that. Absolutely. Maybe I should save my own personal uh, cryptid encounter until then as well. It's rolling on 10 o'clock here, and
Yeah,
my hubby is giving me the stank eye from the bedroom because he gotta be up early tomorrow. So I do probably have to get rolling, unfortunately.
no, that's
Not
perfectly
yet.
fine.
The cliffhanger.
Hey,
I'm
that's good. That
sorry.
we got to build
No,
the
you're fine.
interest. That's how good season finales work. You got to build the
Oh
interest
yeah,
for the
Yeah,
next one.
you're
I
right. You
know.
know what? Forget it. I totally meant to do that.
It was intentional all
It was
along.
intentional.
Well,
Right?
why don't before we end this, why don't you let the viewers know where they can find you on social media, websites, anything like that, books, and then that way they can find more of your stuff and help support you.
100%. Thank you very much, my friend. All right, everyone. If you would like to keep up with me and my adventures, you can find me on YouTube. Just search The Weird Walk Home. You can email me at theweirdwalkhome@gmail.com. I'm not really very active on social media, to be honest with you. I have a nearly deadly allergic reaction to it every time I use it, so it's pretty sparing in a lot of ways. But I'm also available on Patreon and on Buy Me a Coffee if you'd like to support the development of the show. Um, that's right. I also just signed an agreement with Joshua Cutchin for a book or books here in the somewhat near future. As well as I have the book with Tim Sports and our writing team coming out later on this year. And if I get enough funding here soon, I have a merch line that is in the works, and hopefully it'll be out probably around Easter. And it's all going to be based around paranormal concepts and cryptids and uh, lighthearted puns, things like that. And I think some people might really enjoy that. To go with those merchandise products, I also am a professional dessert tea maker, and I'm going to be offering organic hand blended small batch dessert teas for sale. Again, all paranormal themed, so you may want to keep an eye out for that. That's what I got for you tonight, guys.
Well, thank you again for joining, and definitely let us know if the books come out before our next, episode together. We'll make sure to promote it on our page as well. So, thank you again. This was fun. So, once again, Sam and I want to both say thank you to Tillie for joining us. This was a very fun conversation, and we definitely cannot wait to have her back on the channel and we can discuss cryptids. And who knows, perhaps we'll have some other guests and we'll kind of make it a pseudo super show. But until then, do not forget to check out Tillie's channel. A little link will pop up now. For more Culz interviews, click that link to your left. For more about what we're doing here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let us know, when we do our cryptid show, which one should we talk about?